The conversation around the upcoming 2026 NFL Draft is starting to heat up, and for Steelers fans, this one carries a little extra weight because the draft will actually take place right in Pittsburgh this April. That alone already brings more attention to every position group, every prospect, and every possibility that could shape the future of the roster. One position that has quietly become very interesting in this class is tight end, and when you look closely at the evaluations coming from analysts studying this group, you begin to understand why teams around the league are paying attention to it. According to evaluations from Matt Williamson, Mike Prisuta, and Max Starks, this tight end class might not be loaded with elite top-tier talent, but it does offer something that modern NFL offenses value more than ever: versatility and matchup problems in the passing game. The way offenses are evolving right now is changing how tight ends are used, and more teams are relying on multiple tight end formations to create mismatches against defenses. That trend alone could increase the value of several players in this class. At the very top of the group, one name consistently stands out above the rest: Kenyon Sadiq from Oregon. Multiple evaluators agree that he is the clear #1 tight end in this draft class. What really elevated his stock was his performance at the NFL Combine, where he showcased rare athleticism for a player at his position. Sadiq ran a remarkable 39-second 40-yard dash while weighing over 240 pounds, and also posted a vertical leap of 43.5 inches. Those numbers are almost unheard of for a tight end, and they immediately confirmed what scouts already saw on tape. This is a player capable of creating serious problems for defenses in the passing game. His route running, ability to separate, and acceleration after the break make him a nightmare matchup for linebackers and even defensive backs. However, what makes this class interesting is what comes after Sadiq. Several players bring unique skill sets that offensive coordinators could get creative with. Eli Stowers from Vanderbilt is one of those players. He's not considered a traditional tight end in the classic blocking sense, but his value as a passing weapon is undeniable. Stowers actually began his college career as a quarterback, and that background gives him a deeper understanding of the game and defensive coverages. His athletic ability and experience lining up in different situations make him the type of player who could be used all over the field. Then there's Michael Trigg from Baylor, another highly athletic prospect who has shown the ability to produce wherever he's played. Trigg spent time at USC, Mississippi, and Baylor during his college career and managed to find the end zone at every stop. His 2025 season was especially productive, finishing with 50 receptions, 694 yards, and 6 touchdowns. His length, speed, and ability to make highlight reel catches give him the potential to become a dynamic receiving option at the next level. Not every prospect in this class fits the modern receiving-focused mold, though. Sam Roush from Stanford represents more of the traditional inline tight end archetype. At 6'6" and 267 pounds, he brings physical blocking ability that coaches still value heavily, especially in offenses that want balance between the run and pass game. While he's known for his toughness and blocking skills, evaluators also believe he has more athletic ability than people might initially expect. Another interesting name is Max Clare from Ohio State. Even in an offense loaded with talented wide receivers, Clare managed to carve out a role in the passing game. His ability to line up in the slot, operate in space, and create separation against both man and zone coverage makes him a versatile offensive piece. Clare himself has talked about lining up in multiple positions during college, including in 3 tight end formations and even taking a snap at running back. And then there are the deeper prospects and potential sleepers who could emerge later in the draft. Players like John Michael Gillenborg from Wyoming and Riley Nowakowski from Indiana have intriguing traits that teams may want to develop. Gillenborg, for example, has rare length and downfield ability, while Nowakowski showed surprising versatility by contributing as both a receiver and a fullback during his final college season. When you step back and look at the bigger picture, the theme of this tight end class becomes clear. It's not necessarily about finding a complete dominant player at the very top outside of Sadiq. Instead, it's about specialized skill sets. Some prospects are receiving threats, some bring blocking strength, and others offer versatility that creative offensive systems can take advantage of. And that's exactly why this position group might become more important during the draft than people initially expect. If the league continues moving toward heavier use of multiple tight end formations, teams might start targeting these players earlier than projected, especially on the second and third days of the draft. So here's the big question for Steelers fans watching all of this unfold, especially with the draft happening right in Pittsburgh. If the opportunity appears during the draft, do you think the Steelers should seriously consider adding one of of these tight end prospects to the roster, or should the team focus its attention on other positions first? When you continue analyzing this tight end class, another important detail starts to appear, and it's something that could influence how teams approach the draft board once the first round is over. Several evaluators believe that while Kenyon Sadiq stands alone in that top tier, the real value of this group might actually appear on the second and third days of the draft. In other words, teams that remain patient could still land very intriguing offensive weapons without spending a premium first-round selection. That idea becomes even clearer when you listen to how analysts describe the structure of this class. According to Max Starks' evaluation, this might be one of the shallowest pools of top-end tight end talent among all positions in the 2026 draft, but it's also a class filled with specialists. Instead of complete do-it-all players, many prospects bring very specific strengths that could fit perfectly within the right offensive system. Take Eli Stowers again as an example. His background as a former quarterback is more than just a fun storyline. That experience actually shows up in how he plays the position. Stowers understands coverage concepts, spacing, and timing in ways that many traditional tight ends might not. That awareness helps him find soft spots in defensive zones and create separation when plays break down. The trade-off, however, is that his blocking ability is still a question mark. In today's NFL, though, some teams are perfectly willing to accept that trade-off if the player can consistently create mismatches in the passing game. Michael Trigg also represents the type of tight end who can stress defenses vertically. His combination of length, speed, and body control allows him to win contested catches down the field. What stands out even more in his evaluation is his ability to adapt. Throughout his college career, he moved between multiple programs and offensive systems, yet he still managed to produce wherever he went. That kind of adaptability is something NFL teams tend to value when projecting how a player will transition to the professional level. Then there's Joe Royer, a prospect that some analysts view as one of the more balanced players in this class. Royer may not have the explosive traits of some of the other tight ends, but he offers something different: reliability across multiple areas of the game. After transferring from Ohio State to Cincinnati, Royer finally had the opportunity to become a consistent receiving target, and he took full advantage of it. Over 2 seasons at Cincinnati, he recorded 79 receptions for 937 yards and 7 touchdowns, including a 50-catch season that broke the school's tight end reception record previously held by Travis Kelce. That kind of production naturally gets attention from scouts, especially when paired with his ability to contribute in several different roles. Royer might not immediately project as a dominant starter, but he fits the profile of a player who can develop into a dependable part of an offense over time. Another prospect who continues to spark curiosity is Sam Roush from Stanford. In a class filled with receiving-oriented tight ends, Roush stands out because of his traditional skill set. His size and physical style of play make him the type of inline tight end that can help anchor the running game. Coaches who prioritize physical football often look for players like Roush because they bring a level of toughness that doesn't always show up in statistics but can have a major impact on offensive balance. And when you reach the sleeper category, that's where things start to get even more unpredictable. Prospects like John Michael Gillenborg have traits that can't be taught. His height and length alone already give him a physical advantage in contested catch situations. But what makes him intriguing is the fact that he moves more explosively than many players with a similar frame. If he continues to add strength and develop his overall game, some teams might view him as a developmental prospect worth investing in later in the draft. Riley Nowakowski is another fascinating name in that deeper group. His career path shows just how unpredictable player development can be. After catching only 18 passes during 5 seasons at Wisconsin, he transferred to Indiana and suddenly became far more involved in the offense. In that one season, he recorded 32 receptions for 387 yards and 2 touchdowns while also contributing at fullback. That versatility could make him appealing to teams that value multi-position players who can contribute in different packages. So when you step back and really analyze everything about this tight end class, the biggest takeaway is that teams are going to be searching for specific fits rather than universally dominant players. Offensive coordinators who know exactly how they want to deploy a tight end could find tremendous value in this group, especially once the draft moves beyond the early rounds. And with the 2026 NFL Draft set to take place in Pittsburgh, every selection the Steelers make will be under an even brighter spotlight. Fans inside the city and across the league will be watching closely to see how the front office builds the next phase of this roster. Now I want to hear from you. Looking at this tight end class and the different types of players available, do you believe the Steelers should target one of these prospects during the draft, or would you rather see the team focus on strengthening other areas of the roster? And when you take the conversation one step further, the most fascinating part about this entire tight end discussion is how the modern NFL has completely transformed the expectations for the position. Just a decade ago, many teams were primarily looking for tight ends who could block first and catch passes as a secondary responsibility. Today, that mindset has shifted dramatically. Offenses are becoming more creative, more flexible, and more dependent on players who can line up in multiple places across the formation. That's exactly why several of the prospects in this class are being evaluated through a completely different lens than tight ends from previous generations. Coaches are no longer just asking whether a player can block defensive ends at the line of scrimmage. They're asking whether that player can run routes like a wide receiver, create separation against linebackers, and force defensive coordinators into uncomfortable matchups. You can see that evolution clearly when listening to players themselves. Max Clare, for example, described how he lined up in several different positions during his time at Ohio State. He mentioned playing the Z role in a 3 tight end formation, the H role in a 2 tight end set, and the Y position when he was the lone tight end on the field. At one point, he even took a snap at running back. That kind of versatility highlights exactly where the league is heading and why teams are paying so much attention to athletic tight ends who can move around the formation. For offensive coordinators, this flexibility opens up a massive playbook. A tight end who can shift from the line of scrimmage to the slot or even out wide forces the defense to constantly adjust personnel. If the defense keeps heavier linebackers on the field, the tight end can attack them in coverage. If the defense brings in extra defensive backs, that same tight end can suddenly become a key blocker in the running game. This chess match is exactly why many analysts believe the value of this position will continue to grow across the league. And when you connect that trend with the depth of this particular draft class, it becomes easy to imagine several teams targeting tight ends earlier than expected once the board starts to unfold. For Steelers fans, that possibility creates an interesting layer of intrigue heading into draft weekend. Even though the class might not have multiple elite prospects at the top, the number of players with specific traits means that the right fit could still become a valuable part of an offense. Whether it's a vertical receiving threat, a physical inline blocker, or a versatile hybrid piece, the options are clearly there for teams willing to identify the right role. And that brings us back to the bigger picture surrounding this draft in Pittsburgh. Hosting the event adds a special atmosphere, but it also raises expectations. Every pick will be analyzed, every decision will be debated, and every new player added to the roster will instantly become part of the conversation about the future of the franchise. So the real intrigue isn't just about who the best tight end in this class is. The intrigue is about how teams will value the position when the draft board starts moving. Will someone trade up to secure a unique matchup weapon? Will teams wait patiently for value on day 2 or day 3?